How's it going, guys? Cracked Rack here, back at it again with another comedy video. You know, it never ends. The hellhole that is my life. And yes, I'm using the same gameplay footage as last video, just a different part of it. I have to use it, okay? Like leftovers in the fridge, I gotta use it. Today we're gonna talk about the time that I tried to hire an escort, yes, a prostitute, and how it failed miserably. And this is a true story. This is not some gif or gaff or joke made up to get attention. This happened 3 years ago, or around 3 years ago, when I was 21 years old, or freshly 21. You can probably see where this is going. Since I became legal age, was like, you know what? Let's party. Basically, what had happened was I just turned 21, and I was working as a CNA. And I was actually starting to make some, for the first time in my life, I was starting to make some decent bucks. Not good, really, by any means, but for the situation I was in at the time, I would say it was pretty good. And I was making about $1,000 a month with passive part-time work. Well, like I said, I think you can see where this is going. At the time, while I had little girlfriends, I mean, short-term girlfriends, not little girls, you know what I mean. I had done sexual things with people, but I had never ever made love to anybody really deeply or passionately, nor had I ever engaged in any type of fetishistic sexual activity. So I was thinking in my head I'm working this CNA job, I'm lonely, I'm bored, all I really do is make videos and hang out with my friends. I wish there was a way I could just have sex instantly without having to do anything for it or earn it, just get it like at the snap of my finger. And that's when it dawned on me, oh my god, I have $1,000 at my disposal every month. Why don't I hire a prostitute? Now at this point I had done some pretty wild things maybe a lot of people wouldn't want to do. Nothing that's absolutely unbelievable or anything like that, but just not great things. But I'd also done some pretty wild things, so I had a bit of a tolerance, so I figured I could probably see myself through hiring a prostitute and having sex with her and then leaving, I guess. Like it's GTA 3. I figured, why not? I could do that. It's not like I was a drug dealer or a criminal or trying to be like GTA for real or do anything like that. It was just sex, hire a woman to have sex with you on the street. How hard could it be? Well, it was extremely hard and it ended in some bad things happening. So this wasn't just I was so desperate for sex or anything like that. It wasn't like that. I was, at this point, very dedicated to finding a prostitute. I was fascinated. I was obsessed with the topic. Could I find a prostitute in Montana? Because Montana, if you didn't know, it's very free. You can do pretty much what you want. You can smoke weed. You can do stuff like that. But stuff like, hard drugs and prostitution are very punished. I'm not really worried about talking about it because I didn't end up doing it, so there's that. I looked high and low. I looked on the internet. I looked in real life. I tried to find any connection that I could to experience a real prostitute. And I know they exist everywhere, especially if you go to nightclubs. But at the time, and honestly, even now, I really don't like nightclubs. It's not a place I want to be. I don't think I have the money for it either. It's thousands and thousands of bucks sometimes. At least to do anything that's worthwhile. So before we get into the real meat and potatoes of the story, here's a little silly tidbit of information. I actually tried to, when I was in Billings, Montana, find a prostitute on the streets. So basically, I was working that job in Billings, Montana. I just wanted to find any prostitute I could. So basically, I started driving around the bars, the dispensaries, the nightclubs, because they're literally everywhere, as well as casinos. I was just driving around these areas at night, looking for any type of, well, to be honest, strange. Any type of strange that I could fucking tame or find was welcome, but I wasn't finding anything. And anyone who looked good from afar ended up just being a homeless person, which kind of exposed me to the harsh realities of life. So after a while of playing this game of, oh, can I find a prostitute in the street? No. Oh, fuck. I eventually decided to look online. So I basically would type things like Escorts, Montana, and I would find a whole bunch of different websites claiming to have escorts, and I eventually, let's just say, found out the real price of an escort, and it's nothing like I thought. But anyways, I found the group of escorts, or supposed escorts, that I thought were interesting or cool looking. Yeah, that's why I chose them. And I sent them messages, using a VoIP number. And basically, what I sent them was hey, What's your price? Let's do this. And they would respond a lot of the time. However, they were rude, snappy, weird, or they would charge out the fucking wazoo. You see, I thought that an escort could be like $50 to $150. Maybe you could even do a payment plan. That's what I thought you could do. Turns out they're like $400, $500, $600, $700 for 10, 15, 20 minutes. So they're very expensive and not really worth it because a lot of them look like straight up crack whores. So it's just not a good time. However, I found some that claimed to have a really low price. So I said, hey, here's what I want to do, XYZ. I'll give you this price. And they responded, for the most part. Except for one. One did not respond. Didn't even really deliver, I don't think. And let's just say next day I went to work. I came home from work. And when my Wi-Fi turned on again, because I was near the router, I had a new message. And it was from someone who claimed to be the pimp of one of the escorts I reached out to. He screen capped my message, and he was really pissed. He was like, hey, fuckwad, I'm gonna fucking kill you and your whole entire family. I was like, holy shit. At first, the message scared me, and I'll actually show you. This is the real message, heavily censored, but this is the real message. He was like, oh, you made me lose money, you did this and that. And I was really frightened until I got to the rest of the message, which is just cartoonish, where he was basically like, if you don't give me money right now, I'm gonna send hitmen to your house to kill you and your family in 5 minutes, bitch. And then he showed me like a gore image. He probably got it off of Best Gore or Live Leak or something like that, just straight off of there. And he was like, this is what I'm gonna do to you. And so I responded, ha, joke's on you, I'm using a VoIP number. And then I basically sent him things like, by the way, you're a terrible pimp and no one likes you. You know, calling his fucking bluff because he's full of shit. He's not going to do any of that stuff. That would get him in prison so fast. So then, I screen capped this and I sent it to one of my prostitute friends. Because, yeah, I had some prostitute friends. Basically, I managed to make some correspondence with prostitutes. But they weren't really willing to service me because I just couldn't reach the prices they wanted. They wanted like $500, $600. And I'm like, what about $300? And they're like, fuck no, boy, I ain't doing no $300. But anyways, I took that screen cap of that interaction with that guy threatening me, and I was like, look at this shit. Can you believe it? Because, you know, I was trying to build some more rapport. And she was like, that's what your broke ass get. And I was basically like, well, come on now. Don't you want to hear about, you know, this silly goof and gaff in the world you're so knowledgeable about? And she was like, no, but you can pay me and get a service. And I was like, oh, fuck. So that was the end of the conversation, and that's the end of my prostitute journey. About a month of my life wasted on trying to find a prostitute, to no avail and no luck. Finding a prostitute if you're in Las Vegas, or if you're in Oregon, or if you're in California is easy fucking peasy. Finding a prostitute in Montana when you're way out in the countryside, or even just in a part of town with a lot of police, it's so hard to find a prostitute. It's so hard, and if you do find one, they're going to charge so much money, and if they don't charge money, they're a scam and they're probably going to kill you.